Welcome to the final 2024 Sad Boys book review. This is Dusty, and today I'll be reviewing Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book has blown up in the last year and a half or so since its release on mostly on places like TikTok in the whole book talk scene. And when my wife kind of brought it up to me, this was another one of those books like Scythe that we were going to read together. She explained it as it was being touted as ostensibly like a chick book that your boyfriend will love too, one of those kind of books. And I've learned since then that opinion is a little polarizing. This book itself is pretty polarizing, and I have a bit of a mixed feelings on this book. To get one of my biggest negative out of the way immediately, I hate how this book is written. I hate the prose. I think I mean, I don't know really how else to really describe it, but I hate the prose. I don't think it's good at all. I really, and you can call me a snob. You can say what you will about me for this opinion and whatever. It's just my personal preference. I just don't really think my fantasy dragon books should have the term "for the win" in it, let alone twice, at least that I can remember, or the term "badass" in it, or just really weird kind of modern kind of like text slang, like the modern kind of Snapchat conversational kind of speaking. It's fantasy. You can say that's a boomer opinion of mine if you want or whatever, but I don't like the language that she used in it personally. I also think that there is, and if you watch or if you listen to the book club, you'll know that I'm not really shying away from vulgar language, but I feel like there's a line. There's certainly a line. And this book, I think, has excessive vulgarity. Like there probably is a book that has more fucks in it, but I don't think I've read that book. It is insane how much cussing is in this book, and like I don't mind cussing in books. Like I'm not trying to sound like a prude or a snob or anything like that. I love Martin, and there's a lot of vulgarity in Martin. There's a lot of really heavy things in Martin, but it felt like it fit the world, it fit the conversation, it fit the character that was doing it, whereas like with this book, it's just like it's everybody fuck, there goes my child friendly on this that was never going to be there in the first place, but it's just so excessive, and it just feels like the characters are just cursing just to curse. Like oh, it's what you say here. And it felt strange to read just that much vulgarity. And once again, I don't want to try and sound prudish. It's not that I'm against the idea of it completely. It just felt like way too much. So that was probably my biggest problem in the book, was the language, the prose, the way that she wrote it. I really didn't like it at all. That being said, the general plot I did enjoy. Most of the characters I did enjoy. I have a couple of problems with the two leads. Nothing really too crazy. It just kind of goes back to how it's written more than anything. But not enough to where I'm just like, I hate these characters. It's just they're very, very clearly not my favorite characters at all. I'm not a fan of the two leads, personally. I don't hate them. I have nothing truly against them. I just don't really find them interesting. I thought some of the best character writing was with the dragons, personally. When you finally meet the dragons and learn about the dragons, I thought it was interesting. I thought Rebecca Yarros did some pretty good world building. I wouldn't say it's the greatest ever, but it's good. It's more than serviceable, and I really think she crafted a pretty interesting fantasy world. At the end of the day, this book is about, it's a fantasy, it's a dragon riding boarding school with a remarkably high mortality rate. That's just the general premise, and you're following a girl, Violet Sorrengail. Did I say that right? Violet Sorrengail, the youngest daughter of the general of the army of this country, and she's got some sort of disability. It's something like I don't remember the actual name for it, but I think Rebecca Yarros has this actual disability, and this is her trying to write a novel that gives representation to her condition, which I think that's a phenomenal idea. Credit to Rebecca Yarros for that. That's a great idea to try and get the representation that you want to see. If you're not seeing it, do it yourself. And this is a very kind of not really well known, I don't think, condition. Basically, I don't think it's anything like brittle bone syndrome or anything like that, but it's she's got weak joints, weak muscles, weak ligaments, or whatever weak, and so her body bruises, breaks, and whatever very, very easily. I don't want to call her weak, because that kind of the whole point of the book is her trying to show how she's not weak, but it's her weakness, I guess. And she wants to be a scribe. She's trained her whole life being a scribe, but her mother's like, no, you're going to be a dragon rider or die trying. I don't really care. So and it's following her first year through the dragon riding academy. I think it's called Basgiath. I think that's the name of it. It's like Basgiath, I think is how it's spelled. And yeah, she's a fish out of water, and like other stories like this, she is the character through which the reader learns of these things. Not that she's not knowledgeable, she's actually incredibly knowledgeable, hence her wanting to be a scribe, but it's her being that fish out of water that allows us to kind of absorb this world through her. So I like the concept of Violet. My issue with Violet is the writing itself, but conceptually I think Violet is a good character, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for Violet to become a better character in the sequels. I don't know if she will. We will see. But I do think there's a lot of potential there. I just don't love all of the writing in this book in particular. There's also other characters, like the son of... So there was one of the backdrops of the story is there was a rebellion, I think 5 years prior, and all of the leaders of the rebellion were executed, and their children are they're like marked as like a sign of their family was part of this rebellion. And one of the main characters is his name is I forgot his last name. His name is Xaden, which is spelt with an X, which is stupid. I think his name is stupid. Xaden Ryerson, or Ryerson, I don't know, Riorson, Ryerson. And he's the son of the leader of the rebellion, and so he's a bad boy. He's a bad boy. You don't want to mess with him, and he's got a lot of pent up aggression, and he wants revenge. It's a he's the bad boy, but maybe he's a little more skin deep. You'll see. I don't know. I have my issues with Violet and Xaden. There's also other major characters, like her childhood friend Dane, her friends that she meets and grows with throughout her time in Basgiath. And I found myself liking the supporting cast a lot more than the main cast, though I will say a lot of the supporting cast just kind of felt like filler characters that just existed purely for her development and not necessarily for their own development. Like the support cast existed for the purpose of Violet instead of for themselves. That could change in the sequels, and it's not necessarily an indictment on the side characters either. It's just how I felt they were personally, and how they were written, and how they were used in the story. They were fine though. I mean, I didn't have any issues with the side characters for the most part. This book was not afraid to be violent when it needed to. And, I guess to kind of get to what for some people might be the elephant in the room, it is what some people might call spicy as well. There is sex in it. There is a lot. It's a romance fantasy novel. I'm personally not really into spicy novels. It's not really my scene. I got nothing against it. I'm not going to sit there and kink shame you or anything if you're into that. It's not really my scene. So I don't really care about things like that. Any scene like that happened, I wasn't really it's just okay, now we're on this scene. Let's just, we're just gonna get through it, whatever. It doesn't really do anything for me. I don't really live for the spicy, for the spicy spice. I just, I'm here for the story, for the characters, yada yada. So yeah, there's some spiciness in it, and if you're into that, that's some pluses for you in this book. If you're not, I don't think it was so egregiously spicy that if you're not into it at all, you're gonna be like, this, I can't do it, I can't read this is just too much for me, no. Maybe if you're super puritanical, but then in that case, why are you reading a fantasy novel with 87 million F words in it to begin with? But I digress. It was not that big of a deal for someone who's not really into spicy books. I do find personally the language change, the tonal shift from it being standard fantasy to spicy fantasy was a little jarring for me personally, because once again I'm not really used to this kind of fiction. But once again, it's just, for me personally, it was all right. We'll get through it and we'll keep going. It didn't. I could have gone without it personally, but it didn't hurt the novel with it being included. I'm not sitting here. I'm not going to dock a point because there's sex scenes, So it's just, they didn't do anything for me. That's really it. But yeah, interesting book. Like I said, I feel really, really split on it in some places, but it did improve as it went on. It did get better and better, and obviously, you want a book to get better as you go through and not worse. It is interesting because this book really started for me as a 4 out of 10, right there with Assassin's Blade, just dreadful, terrible. Why am I reading this? This is awful. But the further I got into it, the more I enjoyed it, and I'm to the point now where I'm giving Fourth Wing a 7 out of 10. I thought the plot was good enough to kind of overwrite my gripes with it. Like I said, my biggest one being just the awful prose. That still hurt it. If it was written a lot better, I could have seen this book being an 8 or a 9 for me. But I honestly enjoyed it for the most part. I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed some of the character writing. And I thought the dragons were very interesting. It's a very interesting world that she's built, and I'm very curious to read Iron Flame and see where this continues. It honestly might be one of the first books I read in 2025. The first major book is Words of Radiance, but it might be right there after it or even during it, because Words of Radiance, if anyone knows, is just a mammoth of a book as well. But yeah, I'd recommend it if you're into spicy books, or if you like the concept enough, even if you're willing to, even if you don't like the writing and you're willing to just kind of give it a shot despite that. It's just, your mileage may vary. Maybe I'm giving it a little more slack than I would other things, like, Sarah J. Maas or something like that, but I don't know. It ticked enough boxes for me to overlook some of the things that really frustrated me with it, so take that for what you will. But yeah, I think that's going to do it here for this one. That's 2024 in the books. It's going to be a little late on getting these out here since it's now 2025 as of recording this, but I'm glad to finally be done and be starting the year fresh and getting that going, and hopefully staying on it a little better than I did last year. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and see you next time. Take care.